Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scousers Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Monday morning. That's right. He's here, grumpy. We're not as grumpy, except I'm a tad grumpy because, Mateusz, as you know, we had 85 freaking inches of snow over here, and I had the pleasure of shoveling it yesterday. And yes, age catches up. My back is jacked up.
Dude, the snow is ridiculous. So this is the first winter we have in the new house. In the new house, of course, the driveway is the biggest thing that I've ever had to live with in my life so far. And I'm shoveling the shit away, and I'm about halfway through, and my really kind neighbor from across the street was like, "Hey, I just finished snow blowing. You want to borrow this?" And I was like, "I'm too proud to do that. No, thanks. I'll finish with. I'll buy hand." And that was a stupid decision.
That is beyond a stupid decision, yes.
Anyone ever offers you a snowblower, you always say yes. Always.
You know what the thing is? I have a snowblower. Like, it's in the garage buried. We probably have not used it close to like 10 years, if not more, really. I can't remember the last time we used it. Let's put it that way. I could probably pull it out and see if it works or clean it up or whatever. But I was like, oh, this is my exercise. Actually, somebody posted that their kids are going around shoveling, like to make some extra cash or whatever. And Angie's like, oh, you might need that actually. And I was like, you know what? No, that's my exercise. I mean, it was good exercise. An hour of fucking shoveling is a good exercise, but
Angie's the one telling you to go around and get paid to shovel. I thought that's where the story was going.
Oh, Ozan says the Polish Prince was right. There was no way we were losing to West Ham.
No one's ever said that on the show before, by the way.
You did?
No one's ever said those exact words. That
Polish Prince was right? Or
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Mark it down. December 1st, 2025. This is what dreams are made of, baby. A year ago, we had just beaten Man City and Real Madrid 2-0, and now we're here, and I'm right, and the team is not so good.
Look at that.
What a time.
Look at that. Inch of ice. See, that's the only good thing is I don't have to drive in this is probably the only thing that I'm taking as a plus. I did not have to back in the day when you had to drive in this for work and stuff like that. It sucks even worse. We're supposed to get a bit more over here today, I think later on, right? There's supposed to be a bit more snow starting in the afternoon. And Alan is getting rain over there. I mean, I would love some rain right now because it would kind of like melt away some of this crap over here, but it's not too cold at least, so I'm gonna have to go with that. And it was a good weekend overall. The win is great by itself because you got to start somewhere. Now the thing is people getting overexcited, people getting underexcited, if you will. People kind of poo-pooing it because it's West Ham. And people almost like taking it as the new dawn, and now we're gonna go on the street. Where are you at in that scale? That's two extremes. You can't be a bit of both on this one.
Yeah, I can. I can be right in the middle. What are you talking about? I mean, I know that my captain says winning the league. I say that a bit facetiously. So I think to the people that are poo-pooing that it's West Ham, you guys are the worst. You want so bad to get good results, and then when you get a good result, you have to find something to still complain about. You can only play who's ahead of you, right, or who's in front of you in the schedule. You take care of the teams that you play, and they did exactly that yesterday. They took care of West Ham. I don't think it was relatively comfortable. I think when they went up 1-0, I think it got a little rockier than we probably wanted to, and we wanted them to just go out and kill the game. And they sort of invited way too much pressure, I think, for about 10 minutes in that second half before Gakpo was able to score. So I think all in all, it was exactly what this team needed. They needed a good defensive performance where they got a clean sheet out of it, right? I don't want to say the defensive performance all around was great the entire game because there was still some chances given up that probably shouldn't have been given up. Gomez tried to take Ali out for another few weeks, but I think the nice thing there was that Gomez was actually, we've complained so much about players being up for it and going hard for those 50-50s. I'd rather have that happen, right, and have two players go for the ball than to see neither of them go for it, right? That which we've been accustomed to seeing. So, Gomez, isn't the long-term answer because we know he can't play multiple games in a week. As much as I think we would love to, and we'd love to go back to the 2019 days where Gomez and
Yeah.
Bad were going to be the future. He's just not there yet. But it's so nice to see what happens when you play a back line of defenders and a right back who isn't flashy. He isn't necessarily creative. He's sort of boring, but all in the best ways, right? Like he
Yes.
defends how he's supposed to defend, and if he gets a chance to put the ball in the box, he does. And that's what you needed from the right back, and you got it.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. It is not. There was a sequence, I think it's in the first half. He's in like the corner, and he just had no idea where to go. The ball was like going around him and stuff. He just couldn't come back. He couldn't go forward. And I was like, yeah, that's the only thing you're missing over here. But yes, it's very back to the basics. And I think you're right. That is what this team needs right now, at least in terms of like some stability, defending, getting back, not being caught out of position. He had like a great game over there. I mean, Ozan says he will finally score on Wednesday. I don't even know if we're gonna see him on Wednesday. I think that's probably one of my biggest fears in terms of, people talking about, like a new streak starting is I don't know what lineup is gonna go out on Wednesday against Sunderland. Totally different game. The way Slot talked about it seemed like we're going to rotate, like this is not the new 11 or anything like that, especially when it comes to Mo. He was talking about, I got to leave somebody out. If I leave this guy out, then they talk about that guy and stuff like that. But I don't know. Like, what did you make of that, I guess, when you saw the lineup come out? Mo is not there. And do you take it as, oh, it's what we needed? Because when you watch the game afterwards, the only big difference I see is, okay, you have one more guy running on the pitch. That kind of makes up for the lack of running you get from Isak and Gakpo. But Gakpo did run a lot more than normal, by the way, as well. So that was like the main difference. Aside from that, the only other thing I see is we're not as reliant on giving it to Mo and seeing what happens. I think we do that a lot. Like do the diagonal, and then it's all on Mo to make something happen. Either get past the person, get the ball in the box, assist or whatever. Now it's almost like we got to work together to create other things as opposed to relying on the right wing.
Yeah, we saw what not having to force the ball to go to that right wing does, right? Because so often we get stuck in these patterns of giving it to Mo, and like you're saying, having him try and figure something out, whether it's trying to beat his defender, whether it's trying to play a pass in, but so often they were forced to go that direction, and then it would sort of stifle the attack. There wasn't anywhere else to go. Whereas I think yesterday what we saw a lot of, which we kind of thought we might see more of from the beginning of the summer when Wirtz was announced, was a lot more through the middle, right? Actually being able to play through the middle, to go and attack through the midfield with Wirtz, with Sobo. My only worry is that I feel like while Wirtz had a really amazing game, Sobo didn't have a great game. And I'm worried that there's overlap there between, like, one can have a really good game and the other can't, because they sort of like to do similar things if they're in similar positions on the field. That's my only worry from yesterday, seeing what I saw between those two. But overall, like you said, because the pressing wasn't necessarily that much better up top, there was just more of it, right? Because Isak still didn't press well. Gakpo did a lot more running, like you said. And Sobo did a lot more running because that's just all he does is run up and down the field, right? So I think from a leg standpoint, that helped because there were more legs in more places. But it's not like the press has been solved up front because Mo wasn't there. I think there's still a lot to work on there. And it might take someone like Ekitike. When we know when Ekitike is in there, the press looks much better, right? I don't know if it's just Isak still needs more time, whatnot. But I mean, most importantly, he got his goal, right? Striker's goal, really, really great finish. I think when you see the angle from behind the goal, it just shows how nice of a finish that was. So I think it's important. Strikers, the moment they can get the ball inside the net, everything changes for them. So hopefully that is good long term. But yeah, it's interesting because I don't know if Do you think we see Mo at Sunderland or against Sunderland then? I think
Yes.
that's yeah. So
I almost think it's a pairing thing, like what I was saying last week. When you look at the lineups and you're like, hey, there is no way you can have Mo, Isak, Gakpo as a front three and expect any kind of pressure on the ball and pressing. But I think when you have, so I think he has looked at it and said, okay, so if Isak is out there, Mo is not going to be out there. And if Ekitike is out there, then you can have Mo out there because then Ekitike is doing more running in the middle kind of a deal. And I do think we're going to see a slightly different Mo in terms of like how he plays and stuff. I mean, that's going to be interesting to see how he reacts to this whole thing. I do think, what I'm talking about in terms of Gakpo on the left wing, I think we do see a lot of that on the right hand side with Mo come Wednesday, because I do think he starts on Wednesday. Jason, good morning, sir. Back to basics helped us significantly. I think so. I mean, that's honestly what helps you is running. And you just had more midfielders on the pitch who could do more running. And that kind of like helped the cause. And like Jason says, Konate did needs someone like Gomez next to him who's actually defending. Maybe he was like, Trent is gone, now I'm free. And then he was like, oh my God, it got worse somehow. Now there's no right back kind of a deal. So it does help him settle down a bit more. I thought he had a decent game. You can tell. And normally teams lean back, right? When you're up 1-0 psychologically, like when you have like a 1-goal lead towards the very end of the game, regardless of what the manager says or whatever the tactics are, you kind of psychologically lean back. This team started leaning back in the 70th minutes saying, hey, we got to finish this off. We're up for once. We got to finish this off. But it's felt like, and you see the relief after the second goal, like on all of them, not just Gakpo, like on everybody over there. It just feels like it's still going to take at least 2-3 games before the mojo is back. Like people who think, oh, okay, we're good, we're back, is a little bit too optimistic, because you can kind of see like this team has other psychological things. I mean, you talk about mentality monsters and stuff like that. That can go one way, it can go the other way as well. We're kind of like have gone the other way so far. It's going to take some time to come back, because there was a lot of stress in the faces, and then there was a ton of relief in the faces that you do not normally see.
Yeah, and I mean, and with all that being said, there were moments where West Ham just cut through the midfield like there was no one there, right? So
Yeah.
a better team punishes you more, probably once or twice, depending on how things go. So yeah, even though the result was good, there are still moments that, like you're saying, the team isn't back just because they won a game, right? There's still a lot to work on. But going back to the beginning, you can only focus on what's in front of you, and you have to go one result at a time. And I think the most important thing is that you got this, you got to win, you got a clean sheet, you got a striker opening his account in the Premier League, a very expensive striker who's had a lot of pressure and probably negative press and all of that. Now, I mean, he's got 2 goals, so there's $60 million a goal now. So we're only going to go down from here.
Becoming a bargain now.
you have the one of the most creative midfielders in the world be able to play his best game so far in the Liverpool shirt, and you have to take those little victories and enjoy them as you start to, I guess, snowball it bigger and bigger onto the next one, because Sunderland is going to be a very tough test, right? They've proven that they're not just they've not just been promoted just to be beat down again, right? They are for real, and it's going to be a tough test to see how mentally they go from beating West Ham away to now playing Sunderland at home. Thankfully, it's not away to Sunderland at this point in the season, because if we were doing that right now, that'd be a worrisome game. But not that Anfield's been a fortress as of late, but you always have the hope that, all right, if it's at least at home, you feel like the odds are a little better than if you are going away.
I feel like the stadium will be slightly different too. And I know like they support, like Arne and stuff like that with the chance, but there is and you can't blame them, but people have been watching these games almost like watching a car race, like waiting for the accident to happen. Like that's what I'm here for, the accidents kind of a deal. So I worry about, in the past, I kind of worried about, like, the stadium's nervousness sometimes like goes onto the pitch as well. It makes the players nervous. I feel like that would be like a bit more of a positive look into that. Then why would you even like throw these out there, man? Like, just need some positive facts. Positive facts. Jason says, need 5 wins in a row now. Or Jason is not cutting his hair. He's doing the Manchester United guy thing. And I think it's the squad is going to change. He mentioned, like how many games and how many days and how many available players kind of deal. So I think the squad is going to change. I mean, what Jason is saying, I agree there in terms of like the mentality. You need that mentality to be a lot more positive now. Hopefully, like every win will get you closer to where you should be. But I mean, I can look at that game. By the way, though, should mention this. I read a lot of people saying, oh, well, if Bowen's thing went in, everybody will be singing a different tune now. I mean, if we're allowed to play that game, then we should play the other game and said, oh, well, Gakpo scored early on in that game, then we would have won that game. If he gave that penalty there, like we wouldn't have lost that game. So if you're like going to play the negative game, then you should be able to play the positive game. Why don't you just don't play either one and
play
say,
the real
hey,
game.
we won this one?
Yeah, just play the real game. Live in reality, right? You can't just keep going back. You're going back and saying, well, if Rabo wasn't called offside, right, that changes that entire. I mean, yeah. Obviously, anything that happens in a match is going to affect the rest of the match. But what ends up happening is what ends up happening. You can't go back and say the what if, because what if Pep Guardiola never went to City, right? Then maybe Klopp never goes to Liverpool and we're still in complete shambles. So we don't want to go down that road.
Kev's, yes. Today, Fenerbahce is playing Galatasaray. So that's going to be a major thing going there. They're only a point apart now. It's like there's a lot of build-up. The amount of build-up to this game is just ridiculous, by the way. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. So I'm kind of like cautious with that. Edip is all optimistic. But going back to the game, by the way, I have to talk about Virs a little bit because it's exactly what we need. So is it a matter of, did West Ham help us get him on the ball a lot more, like how West Ham is playing? Because I think the more you see of Virs, people are going to be like, don't let him get the ball. Because when he gets the ball, he's very effective with it. He can make the right passes. More than making the right passes, what I really like is he makes the pass so when the person receives it, they can do exactly what they want with it. So if it's supposed to be ahead of them, it's ahead of them. If it's supposed to be to feet, it's to feet. You know what I mean? In terms of like where he places the passes, like really key in that build up. So do you think, like Tony says, West Ham were poor, which, I mean, they have been poor. They've been a lot better recently, but is it something they were doing, or is the fact that we have more midfielders in the center of the pitch? So sometimes, even though it seemed like it took like an hour in the build up, we were able to set up a couple of triangles and suddenly you get Szoboszlai on the ball or Virs on the ball looking forward.
Yeah, I think a little bit of both. Here's the thing. What we've seen in the last several weeks when things were going really poorly, so often did we see people share stills of the field, still images of the field where the entire midfield is open, right? There's no one in proximity to be able to receive a pass to then be able to set something up from the midfield. So in being able to have actual players sit in those spaces that you need and receiving the ball in those spaces, it did help actually be able to help Wirtz then create what he normally creates. Now, some of his teammates aren't necessarily ready for all of the things he's doing either, I think, unfortunately, because at times it really felt like he was 2 steps ahead of his own teammates. And they're not either ready to receive the ball or they're too late to receive the ball. They're just not on the same wavelength so far. But I think West Ham were set up to allow that, but Slot also was able to set the midfield up in a way that also allowed them to take advantage of that, right? And you can only you can only play who's in front of you. And I think this was a good building block, so that we can see what can happen when we get those numbers in the midfield and get that ball in the midfield and be able to play around that.
Yeah, I mean, Kev says Yes, adapting to the Premier League, and it usually takes half the season. Yeah, I'm kind of torn between, is he adapting to the Premier League? Are we just kind of like adapting to where we want him to get the ball and what we want him to do? They didn't crowd him as much. Was it because they couldn't crowd him as much? Going back to what you're saying, there were more bodies in there, so you can't crowd everybody, and the spacing felt a lot better. I know everybody's going to constantly put this on, Mo being out and stuff like that, but it has to be a lot other factors in terms of McAllister was a lot better, like as Ozan says. But I think I can't decide which one is the cause, which one is the effect on these things. Did we get, better spacing in there so all the midfielders looked better? Or is West Ham basically just happening it over here? Cosgrove says, don't want it to be like the Frankfurt game. Start point for us to kick off. Yeah, I mean, Joe, man. I always like, Joe is an easy guy to root for. He's been so freaking unlucky, but his overall demeanor and stuff like that, I just love the kid. Like, like very easy guy to root for. I guess that's the biggest thing. Is it going to be a starting point? Is it going to be, I fear a lot more of up and down. Like we're going to get games like this and then we're going to revert back sometimes. My thing to you is changing the lineups, which you have to because it's every 3-4 days. How does that affect so that it's not the Frankfurt game?
I think if we're going back to what you were saying earlier and being able to rotate and having players in that play better together rather than just putting necessarily your best 11 talent wise at each position out there as opposed to your best 11 that play together, that's a different scenario, right? So what you were saying is that Isak is much better with Gakpo and Sobo on the right than Isak is with Mo on the right? Because we see Sobo make up for what Mo can't do on that right side as far as the defensive liabilities there. So if Ekitike comes in, like you said, and then Mo can play out right, Ekitike can make up for what Mo can't necessarily do defensively on that right side. So I think if we do see that rotation, when we do see that rotation, along the lines of what you're saying, is that we're going to see certain partnerships play together more often. And maybe that's the key, is that we need those pockets of familiarity, that structure together with those specific players as they go from game to game. Now, when Mo leaves for AFCON, I mean, that's going to change a lot, right? We might see a lot more of Sobo on the right. We might end up seeing Wirtz maybe take up some of that spots on the rights. I don't know. But I think, like you had said earlier, we're just going to see certain partnerships work a lot better together, and that's what we're going to see for the next month.
I originally thought it was more designed for like Frimpong on the rights during the AFCON, but I don't know if he's going to be back in time or when he's going to be able to give you,
if he's healthy,
60 minutes, 90 minutes or whatever. But I feel like, and that would, even how we played yesterday, that would help the cause. One, the relationship they have with Wirtz helps in terms of like the runs he would make behind and all that. And aside from that, it gives you like the defensive work and the running, and more importantly, pace on the right hand side as well. So I always thought that was kind of like the original plan. Never understood the plan in the middle, because you have both Ekitike and, like Isak. But if you can make it work somehow and do like a rotation, I just don't like. I'm fine with it, but I don't know if Isak is fine with it, or more importantly, if Ekitike is fine with it. I was kind of like, against the Ekitike not starting thing last weekend, for example. I understood this week, and the goal definitely helps. Because let's face it, if it's not for the goal, we're probably talking about another ghost-like appearance from Isak, right? Because like there wasn't much. You didn't see a whole lot. There's that one shot in the first half that he skies. And aside from that, I can't remember a lot of sequences where Isak is like involved.
Yeah, and I think if you go back to the Newcastle days, I mean, he definitely was more involved than he is at Liverpool currently, but he very much was sort of the fox in the box poacher kind of goal scorer, right? So you weren't signing him so that he could get on the ball, dribble through four guys and link up, right? You signed him because he's clinical in front of the net and he can finish as good as any of them. So when he gets those opportunities, the very small amount he gets, he has to finish them. And I think with that finish yesterday, that's going to be the boost and the kickstart to hopefully a really good career, because that's what we needed to see is having your striker finish those kinds of moments, because that's what we've lacked for years, is having that composure from a 9 that can actually put the ball in the back of the net from that kind of position. Because again, that was a very difficult goal. The pass was bouncing. It wasn't even on the ground, right? The ball was bouncing to him, and to be able to finish that first time, great striker finish. And exactly, I think what you sign him for is to have those moments, because he won't be the guy that touches the ball 40 times a game. He's going to be the guy that touches the ball 6-7 times, but 2 of those times are going to be in the box, and you hope one of them ends up in the back of the net.
The only thing with that is, and I can see both sides to this, but if you're playing with Isak and that's the way you're playing, right? Like, he's not as involved in the build-up or like the interplay. He's more in the box trying to get the, like the poacher goals. And then you throw Paquetá in, who's the completely opposite. In some ways, the positive of that is the opponents does not know how to prepare for you, because it's going to change based on, the personnel. Because, but at the same time, it also means you don't have a specified set identity. It's constantly changing. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because then you can't do, some teams do, look, like in the Klopp era, when we had that front 3, we were like, this is what we're doing. They do it really well. You're not going to be able to stop it. We're going to win the ball, keep giving it to them, and they're going to get you. So you had like a specified identity in terms of like what he does, what Mo does, what Mane does, and, like what Bobby does in the middle. Whereas if you're constantly going from Isak to Ekitike and you're doing totally different things, same thing with like Mo on the right-hand side and stuff, is that a positive, or do you take that as a positive, or do you take it as a negative?
Well, if you're winning games, it's a positive, and if you're not, it's a negative, right? I think it's as simple as that. The performance will speak for itself. I think in either scenario, you have to be able to, the consistency is the midfield and the defense, right? If you can get the midfield to be consistent, and you have Wirtz putting in the performances that we, maybe not necessarily to the levels of yesterday every single time, because that might be too much to ask for, but when you have consistency in the midfield, you have a back line that's more confident, that's getting more confident, then I think you can have that change between Isak and Ekitike feel a lot more natural. And maybe the players also enjoy that, because they're not stuck with one system. Sometimes, like, I know, like, this is a really, really bad example, because this is nowhere near the level of what these players are at. But like I coach high school freshman basketball players, right? And so often they want to do their own thing, right? Because they're young, they're 14, they're 15 years old. They had coaches from kindergarten to 8th grade have them just do a bunch of random things, and now we're trying to put an actual structure, an actual offense. And so much they want to revert back to what they did before, which is just throwing the ball up as much as they can. But if you give them a structure offensively that has flexibility, that allows them to do different things, they enjoy that a lot more than something that's so rigid and regimented. So I think if you can do it right and it offers the flexibility for the players, they might enjoy that more than having to do the same thing over and over. But I don't know. I've never been at that level. I will never be close to that level. So it's hard for me to say. I think that it would allow them to be more free. That's where I would sit on it. But if it's not working, then you got to change it, right?
Then we say, yeah. By the way, let me ask this before I want to get to what Red Rebellion is saying, because I think that's like kind of like an important subject there. But does the Polish prince chew out players? Everybody wants to know. I don't know if everybody wants to know. I definitely want to know. Give me a dressing down that the Polish prince would do to a poor freshman in high school.
This is the sad thing, is that there's 2 of us, or there's 3 of us, right? One of them's a lot more of the assistant. And so there's very much good cop, bad cop, and I'm good cop. So yeah, the other guy's bad cop. So I can't do it. I'm sorry.
Little role play, you'll be like, can I be the bad cop today?
I don't. The kids might just laugh if they see me get in that kind of mood.
It's like, is this a new bit you're doing?
Who is this guy?
Freshman kids could take the current form of this team. Yeah.
In what sport?
Yeah, because that's why like I could not even envision you chewing somebody else. That's why I asked, because I can't picture you like dressing down a kid and be like, you know what? I freaking told you 3 times now, or something like that. Yeah,
It's
they might
hard.
not take you
It's
seriously.
easier in practice, right? Because it's just the team. There's no one else around. But during a game, when you know the parents are on the other side of the sideline, like I look over and like, yeah, I'm gonna be careful with what I say because I don't want some of these parents to hear anything that would cause them to get upset. Because unfortunately, I'm gonna sound like a really old man here or yelling at clouds. These days, you can't be too mean, too loud, too aggro. You know, like I mean, I remember when I was growing up playing in sports, like we were like coaches were loud. They were not physically, weren't hitting us, but you know, they'd be in your face. And now you don't want to worry about it too much, or you worry about it too much because you don't want the parents to necessarily get upset because it just seems like you don't have as much uh, authority. I don't know. I don't know
You're
if I'm
depressing
saying it
Timmy.
right. What's that?
You're depressing Timmy by yelling at him, kind of a thing. I
Yeah.
think in here, like it changes from sport to sport too. I noticed like there is an American football coach. There's a baseball coach. I mean, it's like a cartoon character. Like they're always like copy and
And
paste
you know what they look like
style
exactly. Yeah.
characters, right? I feel like like soccer, football, whatever you want to call it, coaches are slightly different towards the other ones, and sometimes you have like the crossover, like especially in the younger levels, like as my girls were like really little, when they were like, they started with rec, and then especially with Layla, we were like, yeah, we're not doing this comedy for longer, and we would bump them up. But like it would be like a guy who knows nothing about the game, but he's coached his sons like football or something. And it's like, holy cow, dude, you gotta calm the hell down. You're like, these are like 3-year-old girls, not your freaking 14-year-old boys, kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just like it's weird dynamic. Like as I like when I ref now, and I coach the girls, like like rec, like in like like 8, 9, all the way to there at times. It is a weird dynamic because depends on the parents too. But I think after a while, the parents. Like
Sure.
this parent wants you to be really positive and get them going, love the sport. This parent wants them to be harsh and stuff like that. But let's get back to this, because I do think you just got to get them fundamentally ready. Honestly, especially see, depends on the level. For you, it's a different story. I know in the early younger days, you're just a babysitter. Somebody was talking about like, you're just a glorified babysitter so they can drop off the kid. Kazi, we were talking with Kazi in the Discord channel about this because he was being asked to coach his girl. Like I think I can't remember. I don't know how old she is, like maybe like 4 or 5, somewhere around there. So at that point, yeah, it's just like, they drop them off to the practice. I hated it because they would leave. I was like, dude, watch your girl in practice because they're doing things. They look to the sideline. You're out there grocery shopping or going to the post office or whatever the hell you're doing. But
I'm just gonna say, yeah. Realistically, out of the 15 kids that I have, one of them maybe has a shot to play at like a D3 level basketball, and you're not going to get a big scholarship there. So I get the sentiment in the conduit of not paying for college, but these kids, they're not good enough. So there's got to be something else in
the
it.
key is, do they know, or not them?
They better fucking know.
No, more importantly, do the parents know? I think that's the key thing. Like when I ref now, one field I go to is more lower level teams because they go like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And these ones are the guys that are gonna go like states and all that kind of stuff, like better tournaments. And the 5 and 4 really are like glorified rec teams. Like I always tell them, like I've had better rec teams with like Jasmine and Layla in them and a couple of other girls than some of these teams. They're that bad. So the parents know, so they act accordingly. Like they know this is just for shits and giggles and,
Yeah.
so that he's tired rest of the day kind of a thing. As opposed to when you go to the other ones, yeah, everybody's looking at on the pitch and seeing dollar signs and college scholarships and stuff. That's when it becomes a bigger, I think, ordeal because they get whenever money gets involved, shit goes downhill over there. But okay, let's talk about this a little bit, because we're actually talking about this with my brother about like the YouTubers and the clickbaiting, because I totally agree with Red Rebellion. But I think, Slot was asked about the away fans singing his name and supporting him and throughout the game and all that. And he said, yes, fans have been great. This is like why this club and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, dude, you must not be going to social media, because that's not the vibe there. And I really do think a lot of YouTubers don't even have an opinion. They just go to Twitter, they see what the overall sentiment is, and then they get on air and they throw that out there. So they kind of go with the wind. That's why they're like, and then it's considered he's very emotional and passionate. No, he's just basically feeding the masses. Like, what do you want to be fed today? It's like asking your kid, what do you want? Like mac and cheese. I'll make you mac and cheese. So it's basically what they're doing. And I don't know. I don't feel like the slot out and slot in is very divided, it seems. What do you think like the percentages are right now? Or how much does a win even change that percentage?
You're going to love this answer.
A little bit of both. We can't do that.
It's 50-50.
You think it's 50-50?
No, I don't.
Or you just went the generic answer.
Yeah, it's. I don't think the win changed anything, because I think the people that were slot out are the ones saying, well, it was just West Ham, right? Yeah. And so their opinion isn't going to change because it was just West Ham. So I think wherever we were at percentage-wise before is the percentage that we're at now. But the online community is a business now, right? I mean, YouTube, Twitter, X, whatever, like you are on these platforms to essentially make money, right? You want to do this so you don't have to actually work. Not saying that this isn't actual work, because we know this is actual work, right?
Yeah.
But you want to be able to sit in front of a camera.
It's actual work that doesn't pay, basically. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And just talk about your favorite team and get paid doing it. But you're not going to get paid if you don't get the views. And what gets the views is people either really angry about your opinion or you getting people really angry. So the way that you do that is by then having these clickbaity headlines, by saying the things that get people riled up, or that people will get riled up, that people are riled up about. And so I think that's the most unfortunate thing, is that a club of this size, right, from overall global viewership and fanship, the millions and millions of people, you're fighting for attention again across like a lot of different other shows and platforms and whatnot. So you're trying to stand out in the right way or the wrong way, whatever the way it is, so that you can get the eyes, so that you can get the money, kind of thing. And so I do think that some of these channels are not necessarily, they're business first, fan second. And there are some channels out there that are fan first, business second, but you're not going to see those as much because it's not going to be as popular.
Yeah, Chris says, see, here's the thing though, right? We do this with my brother a lot too. It's like online is accessible. We shouldn't waste time listening to opinions there. We are online. So sadly, our opinions are out there too. I think the problem is, I mean, you're right. And, like Ozan says the same thing, like the rage baiting generates views. And it's funny to me, I've always thought that, but how do you keep watching a person who is basically they're putting pretty much in their headline without saying it. They're basically putting like free pitchforks, come grab one kind of a thing. And then people go, but my thing was, when this guy changes next week though, like when he changes his tune left and right, doesn't that affect credibility? But I think the fan base, a lot of the fan base follows based on emotion. Their freaking opinion is changing every 3 days too, based on results. So I think they kind of like go hand in hand, and they're just like walking around the interwebs, talking shit. It's just, I find that I'm kind of like torn in terms of like where the fan base is in terms of like how much support he actually has and how much is just, this is what we got to do, man. We got to sport kind of a thing. And I think it's probably, like you would say, a little bit of both. I just don't know what the percentages are.
Well, I don't think necessarily that especially for away fans going down to London, to watch this match, they can go and support the team. They didn't have to chant his name specifically, right? They can sit there and sing everything else. They don't have to chant his name specifically. So I think that was a really big thing that happened away from Anfield, because the fans that are going to these games, they're the ones that are there all the time. So sometimes, and I'm, this is going to sound maybe silly, but like, as someone who is so negative about Slot, don't you look at that and go, okay, well, maybe there is something there. Maybe if I'm not there, maybe the local fans do appreciate him more than the ones that are across the globe. But I also don't want to diminish the fanship of anyone across the globe, because that's exactly what we're doing, right? I mean, so often we complain about local people complaining about tourists, even though it funds a lot of money for this club. I don't want to do the flip side of that and complain about the tourists complaining about the fans and supporting Slot or not. It's just it's a weird dynamic, and I don't know.
But I don't even know. Like, I think that's who you're hearing, because it's not the kind of club that's gonna, like, sing against Slot mid-match or even post-match and stuff. At least, like, not now, especially this win kind of like punts things away. I think at least a couple of weeks put people at bay. I just don't know if, you hear the positive voices in the stadium, but I guarantee you, people who were singing for Slots this match, when they left the Forest game, they were like, he's got to go. Not all of them, but a lot of them was probably saying he's got to go. So it's kind of like a weird dynamic right now. And I'm sure he knows he's kind of like walking the plank in that sense. And I think, some of the changes he's making finally shows that. I felt like this starting 11, I know he says rotation and stuff like that, but I don't know if he benches Mo if things are going well and saying like, oh, it's rotation and all that. He realizes what they're lacking, and I think it was a matter of like making it work. I really think it's about those partnerships I was talking about earlier. He does realize that if Mo is going to be out there, Ekitike has to be there, so they don't, they kind of like complement each other. So it's kind of like finding those. But the downside of that, like I said, is you can't find your ideal starting 11 in that sense. But life will be a bit easier for him, I think, on AFCON, because like he won't have to answer. Because I mean, that's the first question he had to answer in the press conference about Mo being on the bench, and he's gonna get that all the time. They did show Mo like once or twice. I did not see. I was expecting like a Mo cam, knowing like how media works. Like we were gonna see when somebody misses, what did Mo do? What somebody scored? What did Mo do and stuff. They didn't do that as much, at least like not on the like the stream that like we saw on our end over here. But let's talk about this, by the way. I kind of wanted to run you because it showed me a couple of different things. We always talk about the negative shits we see on the pitch, but the Paquetá red card, I thought we saw one of the worst red cards in the Everton game. Like, what was that last match way, where two players from the same like Everton fighting and one of them getting a red card. I mean, this was so freaking over the top and obnoxious. I was showing Angie last night afterwards because she was like, wait, what? And it literally took a minute. It takes a full minute between his yellow cards and his red card. Like, how the hell? Part of me says, first of all, I initially, when there was like Ozan's talking about Allison and Curtis were there, I thought maybe he was the captain, because there's nobody holding him back from West Ham. Like, It's almost like the West Ham players were like pushing him to the ref. Like we don't like this guy, get him a red card or something. So I had to go online. Bowen is the captain. I don't know where the hell he was. I had to go back and watch now. But he was not like trying to hold him back, take him away, or anything like that. I was like, where the hell is the captain? But the positive in this is we used to see this all the freaking time, and the second yellow would never come out for dissent. So how we kind of at least advance in that category where we don't see this as much anymore, where the guy is fighting, getting in the ref's face and stuff. But am I being too positive?
I think you're being too positive, because remember all the times when something was introduced and we'd see it for a week or 2 weeks and then it would never get called again, and we'd be like, well, what happened to all of that? You hope to see this as positive to go forward, but you don't know. And I think there's a there's a fun camera angle. I don't know if you saw it, where Van Dijk is right next to the ref, and as Paquetá's coming back, Van Dijk kind of moves away and lets Paquetá go to the ref, and he earns the second yellow at that point. So it's a great little decoy, a little dummy from Van Dijk to get out of the way to encourage Paquetá to keep going.
Yeah, he's like, come on in.
Yeah,
the fun is here.
I just find it funny how he then goes on to make a social media post and then says, I think something along the lines like, I'm sorry, I'm not a perfect person. Like, that's the exact thing every narcissist that you know in your life says. Anytime that they do something wrong, they just go, well, I'm sorry, I'm not perfect. And you're like, okay, yeah. If this wasn't consistent behavior over the last 2 years or last 3 years, last 4 years, whatever it was, then maybe I'd give you some little bit of credence to it. But it was just absolutely bizarre. Besides the Everton one, there was also, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. Oh God, who was it? There was a foul on, like, he kicked the ball away out of bounds in the attacking half, and then went back on defense and clattered someone on the other side and got 2 yellows for that within like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but it reminded me of something like that, where you rightfully earned both yellow cards in those scenarios, right? And that's what we've always talked about, is a yellow is a yellow. It doesn't matter if you're already on a yellow. What it is what it is. And I think sometimes we see reffing go differently if someone is on a yellow or isn't on a yellow. So at least consistency for those two were there, but you can't expect consistency for everything else.
Yeah, I mean, Gordos is expecting that was the kind of joke he needed to get through these Monday spreadsheets. I can just picture Gordo sitting at a desk with his cowboy hat on and cowboy boots, just doing spreadsheets, by the way, on a Monday morning. That's yeah, practicing his rope skills at the same time with the left hand as he's working with the mouse on the right hand. Yes, that's a good picture by itself. But I guess the thing that I liked afterwards, it was just like seemed so odd. I mean, the fact that it's Paquetá obviously brings out all the betting jokes, right? But it seems so obvious and intentional, because you don't see that as much anymore. Like, once people get a yellow for dissent, it's almost like they know better. It wasn't like this, I don't know, 15, 20 years ago, because, that was taken in one big sequence. Like, you threw a temper tantrum, you saw a yellow, you're still throwing temper tantrum, but it was all like the same sequence of events. Okay, you got a yellow, calm down and go back. Whereas when he kept going this time, it seemed very odd to us as we're watching. We're like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? I don't think we would question it as much in the past, because it was kind of like normal behavior. That's the part I took as positive, that this looks crazy now. It looked like deranged. Like, what are you doing? Are you trying to get a red? And obviously, because it's him, it gets a lot of like betting jokes. I mean, I think, like anything you go online now, it wasn't an original joke after like the third one. Like 100th guy is still coming in. He's like, you must have been a bet, dude. Like, yeah, like that was funny 500 comments ago, but everybody has said the same thing. Yeah, he said it's ridiculous because I think this is a response to segments. I think it's from Sky or BBC, one or the other, where like somebody called his behavior ridiculous, which I think we can all agree, right? Because he saw the yellow because that was back-to-back too. He had just done that like 15 seconds ago, like throwing his arms up. So he throws the arms up again. He's like, okay, you know what? You got to stop this shit, so you get a yellow. It's ridiculous to have your life and career affected for 2 years without any psychological support from the federation. I know why he recurs to the federation like it's the Hunter Games or something like that, by the way, but I didn't understand. That was another thing. Like, I never heard of it referred to it as the federation.
the ref's job in the middle of the match is not to be your psychological support. Like that's the wrong person that you're targeting right now.
Paquetá, I know it's been rough, but kind of thing. Perhaps this ridiculous behavior is just a reflection of everything I've had to endure, and it seems have to continue enduring. I'm sorry I'm not perfect, if I'm not perfect. It's crazy.
So here, I think overall, in general, sports betting, we see it in the States here, especially like with the NBA, right? There are a lot of probes that went out, a lot of players that are getting in trouble. There should be support for these players when it comes to those kinds of things, because sometimes I think it is an addiction, right? That sometimes it is very difficult to break, and especially if you're within it and you're able to influence it the way that you can, right? It almost amplifies and makes it more intense. And so there
I
should
get
be,
that, but let me ask you this: why? Why is it if you have a problem?
yeah.
At your, I've never had anybody from work saying like Tim is really depressed right now. We should get him some help. And me putting it on like, you guys know I'm depressed. How come I'm not getting any help?
Well,
Especially
were
these
you?
guys are getting hundreds of thousands of dollars. Go get your help. If anything, you know what I mean? You can afford your help. Like I might not be able to, or a regular like Joe might not be able to, but we don't expect their company to address their issues. But we expect these guys who are making shitloads of money and can have like a crew of psychologists walking around with them in their house at all times. We expect the federation or whatever to kind of get them help.
Yeah, I was getting to that.
Oh, sorry.
No,
You got
it's
my, you
okay.
pressed my
No,
button
no,
over there.
no, because I
Press
was
my
just,
button.
that's what I was saying. In general, it is a problem, right? And I'm talking because, especially here, we get commercial after commercial after commercial of betting.
Yeah.
And then the leagues are like, oh, we don't know how we could have a betting problem. We just fucking put it in their faces 24/7. But at the same time, the people that usually have this problem gambling don't have the money to be able to get help. Whereas,
Yeah.
yes, these athletes, you would think they have the resources, they have the money, they have the ability to get the help they need if they so choose it. It's just difficult sometimes because if you've ever known anyone with a particular addiction, it can be really difficult for that person to admit that they need the help. And at a certain age, you can't force them to get help, right? When you're of an
Yeah.
adult age, you can't force anyone to do anything technically. So to get them to that point, it can be difficult. But you would think, yes, that with all the resources you have at a club of that size, because let's face it, any club in the Premier League is big enough and wealthy enough to be able to give you those resources, that you should be able to then go and take care of that in your own way, and then not have to go and cry about it on social media afterwards, even though you've been the one that has been showing the same repeat behaviors for years and years.
Yeah, I mean, I know what he's talking about in terms of like the investigation, which they didn't essentially come up with something solid, but there was enough smoke. I think at the end of the day, maybe they just couldn't prove it or whatever it was. But at the same time, like it felt like one of those where people are like, dude, what the hell are you thinking? And he's like, it got to me, man. And, like, and then like he makes that statement on top of it. You would think it would be a better statement to kind of like be apologized, because like what Zan says, it's more like a sorry, I'm not sorry kind of like a statement this one is. And you're right. I mean, West Ham, any Premier League club has psychologists on duty in like I'm not on duty like that. like they're
just
doing a shift, but
standing near the dressing room,
break the
just
glass up, pop the psychologist out. But I mean, so it was there. It almost felt like, you know, like he kind of used it as it's just been getting to me, man. It's like stressed out over here kind of a deal. But that was like just literally obnoxious. And now you're going to miss another game, or he wanted the midweek off. I don't know which one. It just felt so intentional that it was like really odd, to be honest with you. Yeah, I think they should be paying us stress pay. I think I agree, especially Liverpool over the last few months over there. But hey, at least we start a Monday with some good news, better morale, heading to Wednesday. Let's see if this continues. I'm hopeful, but I don't think I'm hopeful to the point where I expect like, you know, 5-6 wins in a row or anything like that. But I think, you know, overall there'll be a bit more of a positive vibe and not this what's going to go wrong approach to things, as opposed to let's see if we can make it happen again. But it is Monday. Go ahead. You were about to say something.
I was going to ask, let's say this team does win 5 or 6 in a row. Back in the title race? Yes or no?
I would think so. I mean, depends. Is Arsenal winning 5 or 6 in a row as well?
No,
I think
I don't
if you
think
go
so.
into the new year within like 5 points or something like that, yeah, why not? But
Yeah.
I thought, you know, some of the comments that we had on Discord were like more tongue in cheek than anything else. But yeah, when they lost, because that was my thing. When I saw it yesterday, I was like, down to 9, baby. And I go there and like, you know, somebody already had Spencer had already put the comments in there. So I didn't like double up on it. But I think, you know, yeah, if you have a winning streak going, hey, look, and the schedule helps you in that sense. You are able to, if you play well, you can like string like a bunch of wins. And if they drop some points along the way, like I say, if you cut it down to like 5 points going into the new year, at least you'll be like, okay, let's see what happens. You'll be in the discussion. You'll be watching Arsenal games. I mean, I did not watch it. I was kind of like footballed out. I didn't watch the Chelsea Arsenal game. Kind of like started in the beginning, then I was like, yeah, I lost interest. But like you will follow Arsenal scores and stuff. I was like, oh shit, that's right, the game is over. Is how I went afterwards and looked at the score because it was 1-1 last and stuff. So I think you will follow a bit more closely and have hope. But yeah, I mean, I'm with Ryan there. Let's just get the top 4 right now. But someone said it here. We're gonna win the Champions League, so we'll come back to me. I was getting a lot of shit again in the PSV game, but it is what it is. So it's Monday, grooming day, but it's freaking cold as fuck and snow out there. So are you grooming yourself like a cat in the house, or what are you doing?
The only thing getting groomed is my car. Gonna do an oil change because no grooming for anyone else here in the household today.
Oil change. Okay, I thought you were gonna get it washed. I was like, I just fucking told you it's gonna snow. Like,
I don't listen to you. I will. There was a question earlier. Ozan asked if I'm a Jokic or a Doncic fan. That I would like to answer. I am a Jokic fan more than a Luka fan because Luka's petulant behavior really irks me when he complains every possession, whether it's on the offensive end or defensive end, every single possession, it really gets to me. And some of the kids say I sort of look like Luka, so they're starting to call me Coach Luka, and that's starting to annoy me because I don't want to be that petulant person that they think of. I admire Luka's game. I think he's incredible. His talent is off the charts, but I also think Jokic is unlike anything we've seen and unlike anything I shouldn't say anything we will see because we keep seeing more aliens come and play. But he is doing things that at his size that, I don't know, it's actually incredible to watch what he does day in and day out at 7 feet.
I thought you would say Jokic just because you're a tall dude too, and you probably admire more.
I'm shorter than both of them though, right? Like
are you really?
Yeah, I'm 6'4". Luka is 6'7", 6'8", and Jokic is 7 feet. They're
like
giants.
A different planet, dude. Because amongst us, you were like a giant. Not to mention, I mean, mind you, we're not tall people. Like when we had the Monday Night Crew and stuff over there, you were going around like a freaking giant.
Just imagine even more.
Yeah, I mean,
crazy.
Yeah, I know what you say about Doncic though, because I know when he was in Dallas, I was like, man, this kid is like fun to watch. And then, he was kind of annoying, but I'm a Lakers fan. So now he's a Laker. You can kind of see he has he's a blend of LeBron and Kobe in the sense that he has a ridiculous cockiness to him that Kobe had. And he complains about every call, kind of like LeBron does. So it's just like a good mix over there. But I mean, we watch Lakers games with like Ainge because they're a fun team to watch now. There's a lot of passing going on and stuff like that. Yes, I don't root for any Chicago team. Blackhawks a little bit just because Layla is really getting into hockey now, and I don't have a allegiance to any hockey team per se, aside from like the ones I played in the game in the past and stuff. But yeah, because I grew up. I mean, Ozan, you're probably not as old as I am, but I grew up as a kid watching Lakers Celtics back home. That was the only game you would get from here, like all those finals and stuff. And obviously their colors were similar to what you want to call it, Fenerbahce colors. So as a kid, not to mention they were more fun to watch. Let's face it, the Lakers, the Showtime Lakers kind of a thing. So I became a Lakers fan and then came over here. Yeah, I'm never a Jordan fan. Was it a big? Yeah, I gotta get Layla to talk to Gordo, who can give us, because we have constantly like some hockey questions, like tactical things, like why did they even do that kind of a thing. So we got to get Gordo hooked up in a 3-way conversation so he can show us some
in his cowboy hat and boots talking about hockey, baby.
Y'all watching some hockey?
What's really weird, ironically enough, there is a huge hockey scene in Texas. There are a lot of young guys who go down to Texas to play. I don't know if Gordo is familiar with it yet because I don't know if he's been around it, but there's a huge huge hockey scene at the youth level. I mean, youth level, I'm saying like 15 to 20 years old kind of thing. Maybe it's different now, but I know that that's how it was a few years ago. Because I had guys I went to high school with who were really good who went down to Texas to play.
Really? That's odd, because
It
it's
is
not,
odd.
I can understand the northern side of things, but yeah, youth programs. Oh, Finn is gonna be a hockey player. So we'll see how that goes.
We've
But hey,
lost him.
I'll be back tonight with the gang. Monday night podcast, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. If you have not hit the thumbs up, please do that. If you have not subscribed, we are over 1,500 now. So you know what that means. Next goal is 1,600. So hit the like, grab us a subscriber, bring a friend over here, and have an awesome week, everybody. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.